My husband Gregory, who you may know as Gregg Allman of the Allman Brothers Band, was diagnosed with cancer 2 weeks after we got engaged, 2.5 months after we met. So I was thrust into a full-time caregiver role when I was 23. And he is what doctors call a medically complex man. So he had metastasized cancer, he was a liver transplant recipient, he had hepatitis C, and he had complex post-traumatic stress. So it was mental, physical, emotional, psychological, medical stuff that we were dealing with. And I just made it my life's mission to try to make him feel better and to make life as comfortable for him as possible. And that's one of the questions I get asked the most for those of you who are in a caregiver position now is, what advice do I have for you as a caregiver? So some of the things I learned are, there's a saying when someone is living with a terminal illness, I don't have time to rush. If your time is limited, then you want to be as present as possible with the time that you have. So I started meditating. And I always recommend to people, you're really training your body to feel safe at rest in a culture that has conditioned us to be go, go, go all the time. So I always recommend starting with 1 to 2 minutes in the morning before you even get out of bed. There are guided meditations on the Insight Timer app. Some people like Headspace, there's YouTube, Spotify. 60 to 120 seconds of guided meditation, of just sending a message to your psyche that this is a practice. It's a practice. You practice at it for your whole life. You don't conquer it, to learn how to do this. And so after I built up from 2 minutes to 4 minutes, and the goal is a 20-minute minimum per day. They say everybody should meditate 20 minutes per day unless you're too busy, in which case you should meditate for an hour. And getting present for me taught me how to memorize him. So now that he's gone, I can picture every scar, freckle, the feel of his white cotton t-shirt that he slept in, his smell, every inch of him I memorized in a meditative present state. And so I highly recommend that. The chemotherapy that he took made the bottoms of his feet and his hands crack really badly, which as a piano and organ and guitar player, that was no good. And so I searched high and low. All of the creams and lotions that the doctors recommended to us were not working. And then finally at a teeny tiny farmer's market in Montana, I found this lotion called Gypsy Cream by the Good Stuff Botanicals, which they've exploded in the years since. And actually pediatric offices have replaced some steroids with their cream, their Gypsy Cream. It is good for rashes, burns, eczema, psoriasis, bug bites, and as it turns out, the cracking from chemotherapy. So every single night before we went to bed, I would massage the cream into his feet and then put on 100% cotton socks so that those are breathable. And there's something, someone said to me once, there's something holy and sacred about getting down beneath your person and taking care of their feet. And so it was a really intimate, soothing thing for both of us that we did. So I highly recommend the Gypsy Cream by Good Stuff Botanicals. Nutrition was really key. And he was a meat and potatoes guy. When I met him, he was eating no vegetables. He was eating all meat and potatoes and drinking 2 pots of coffee a day when I met him. So I got him down to decaf coffee. Occasionally he would sneak a caffeinated cup, but that's another story. And then things like, he loved shepherd's pie, so I started adding in more vegetables into shepherd's pie. I basically took all of the comfort food recipes that he loved, and I just made them have more fruits and vegetables. And so another thing was he loved mango and smoothies, but a lot of smoothies are just all sugar, and dairy wasn't really working great for him at the time. So I would do a milk alternative like coconut milk or almond milk with frozen mango chunks. Mango is really good for the nervous system. And then he really did love sweet things, so I would add a splash of orange juice or apple juice, and then a big handful of spinach, which if you put spinach into a smoothie, you cannot taste it at all. And if you mix it with mango, it makes a really pretty green color. Bill Evans, the saxophonist, got us really into juicing. He actually sent us the Breville juicer. And so we started juicing every single day. And it can be expensive to be buying all of that extra produce. And it is, time intensive to be washing and prepping and cleaning the juicer. Yes, that is all true. But especially in that stage of life, the benefits of the juicing with energy and mood and skin and nails and hair and libido, and just like, it's like if somebody could give you a magic pill to make everything better, that's what juicing was for us. What else? Oh, I read a book called Anatomy of an Illness, and it taught me that when you're going into a hospital, the doctors and nurses, they have a ton of patients, they have a ton of protocols, and they're just kind of boom, 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 doing what they need to do, which is why an advocate in the room with the person is so key. And so I remember, he was getting like no sleep. We would be staying at the hospital sometimes for weeks or months on end, overnight, in ICU, and a lot of near fatal medical emergencies, and it was just really a horribly traumatic and stressful time. And so neither of us were really getting sleep. And so I remember this one time he had gotten no sleep, and then because he was medically complex, he had so many different teams coming in. And this one day, it was like every other hour for 6 hours, they were coming in starting at 5 o'clock in the morning to draw blood. And then a couple hours later, drawing more blood and waking him up every time and, prodding his veins like a pincushion. And so this book taught me we actually do have autonomy over setting boundaries with doctors and nurses. So I wrote on a piece of paper and I taped it to the outside door of his hospital room, and it said, these are the hours that we will be allowing blood to be drawn. You guys need to work with each other to figure out what other teams need blood, and then draw blood one time and let all of the teams do what they need to do from that one blood draw. And that was one of the biggest things that made such a big difference for everybody involved. What else? We got really into Native American flute music at that time, and he didn't love Spotify for obvious reasons. Artists not getting properly compensated, stuff like that. But he did love the soothing jazz playlist or station on Spotify, which actually was what he requested that I play when he was dying. That's another story for another day. Hard not to get sidetracked there. Just as an aside, I worried about how he would die so much, all the time. I felt like life had its fist just reared back, just like ready to punch me at any given point, and like his death. And I worried, we didn't want to be away from each other for a minute. If I went to the gas station, I was hurrying up, to get back in case he died, which a lot of caregivers are living through, that just constant fight or flight, hypervigilance, and so much worry that I wouldn't be home or he would fall out of bed or something. And another story for another day, deeper, but for anyone who loved him, it was as peaceful as it can be for a human being leaving this earth. There was a flowered shawl over the lamp. It was me and his best friend and the soothing jazz music, and it was very peaceful transition. I'm trying to think of anything else off the top of my head that helped with care. Oh, well, with caregiving too, my regret is anybody who knew me or knew us or knows me knows I loved that man more than I loved myself. I was very young, I was very in love, and I was just swallowed up by this man. And so I poured into him without pouring into myself. So for the last probably 8 or 9 months, I lost 20 pounds. I was just living off of smoothies myself. I really wasn't eating or taking care of myself. And I said what I hear so many caregivers say now, which is, I just don't have the time to take care of myself. I don't have the option to take care of myself because they have so many needs. And I get it, I did it, I really do get it. But it is now almost 8 years since he died, and I am still in recovery from what my body went through at that time. I was walking with a cane at a certain point. I had to put Pilates and physical therapy on a credit card to even just not be walking with a cane. I have serious physical health issues that still stem from what I went through almost 8 years ago. So if I knew then what I knew now, when I was saying, I don't have the option to take care of myself, I can't, I would have known, well, your body's gonna make you at some point anyways. And so I wish that, it's like when you hear that saying, I remember when I was a kid and I heard that, put your own oxygen mask on first before the child's. Excuse me. And I remember being a kid and thinking that that was selfish because I thought that it was saying save your own life before you save the kids. And then of course you get older and you learn that you are putting on the oxygen mask first for yourself so that in case you pass out and then the child doesn't know how to put on their own oxygen mask, right? Then the kid, you've got to take care of yourself so that you can take care of the child. And I wish I had known that not only did I deserve to be caring for myself, but he deserved for me to be caring for myself, because there were absolutely days that I was irritable and snappy and exhausted, and then I would go into this shame spiral of the fact that I had snapped at him when I loved him so much and I was doing so much for him, but I was getting burnt out and I was pushing past burnout. I was also undiagnosed neurodivergent, and I've learned that it's actually really common, especially in women, that a lot of us don't find out that we have ADHD or neurodivergencies until we have children or we become caregivers, and then all of a sudden, those of us who have been these high achiever, type A, perfectionist, driven, ambitious women who have just been working so hard to do everything that we've done, now all of a sudden we just can't do it. So Gregory was on 3 pages of medications. I knew every generic, every name brand, what they couldn't interact with, what foods they needed, what time they needed to be taken, with or without food. I memorized everything, and I can confidently say I did an extraordinary job caring for my love. And then he died, and I could hardly brush my teeth or do anything. I could hardly do anything. And I was so hard on myself, and so many people in my life were so hard on me. What is wrong with her? Why is she so stuck? Why can't she just move on? And nobody knew that it wasn't just the grief, which, by the way, losing a spouse or a child is very top of the list of stressful things that one can go through, very life-changing, perspective-altering things that one can go through. So if it had just been losing him, that still would have been really, really hard and awful, but it wasn't just that. It turns out that I was also neurodivergent, and now I had neurodivergent burnout and caregiver burnout and complex post-traumatic stress, which I don't call a disorder. That's another conversation, but I don't call any of that stuff disorders, because I think that complex post-traumatic stress is a very normal reaction to abnormal circumstances. Anyways, I could go on and on. That's what I've got for caregivers today. Take care of yourself, nourish yourself. The person you're caring for deserves it. You deserve it. I'm sending love. Thank you for listening.